Hello, welcome to Garden Chronicles. My name is James David. In this particular video, it's not so much anything to do with plant care or anything such as that, but very much more on a window shopping and very much on the dynamics of a plant tour in this Kuala Park Festival, which have taken place in this particular location here in Tasik, Titiwangsa. And I find that it's quite intriguing to know what has been showcased here by vendors and the plants that are trending and of that kind of direction. So I hope you enjoy my tour here, and it is basically in a week's time, and I just want to share to you on my findings and the things that's intrigued me in this particular video, and I hope you enjoy this particular show. I must say that most of the collection here is very much directed to the rare plant collection. Mostly of these are actually aeroids, and specifically on the identifications where it is either directed to the monstera species or the variegated types. And these are not commonly available in most nurseries. And I find that this is so much very much directed to a specific target group people, and I find that a lot of this is very much fall into the indoor gardening space, more on the balcony kind of area. And I find this is quite intriguing because this is what has been actually directed more on trending plants. Here in this video is very much on that direction where I've noticed what is actually available and together with the prices, and sort of like to able to check the target market and to identify what is available and what is the price like, and in a way to sort of like test the market and see. And you can see most of them appear to be very much uniform. I believe these are actually quite stable plants when it comes to tissue culture plants, and I find that very much most of the plants are actually much on their regular size, sort of like somehow they are very stable, and I find that this is what's going to be trending for another few years time. I just want to show to you on what is available right now, and you can see here this one of the rare types of philodendron, and this particular one is a variegated type, and believe me, this was far more expensive. In 2 years time there will be the COVID pandemic season, and hence it is sort of like prices gone down a little bit. But however, this is what I can consider a stable price. But however, this is the plant market and what it is currently in their trending prices. This particular monstera, if I'm not wrong, is more of a unicorn plant, Monstera obliqua, and it's very rare and very difficult to get. And now I'm seeing it's available here. It's sort of like considering it like a kind of a shock for me, because I know that this is considered a very highly sought after and very expensive. Only few can afford it, and now it's available here. So I can understand the rare plants now has become very much like a common plants here. Currently, I noticed that a lot of introduction on the Philodendron species, and some of it more on the types that is more on a heart-shaped climbing types. And I think this is very much now that has been flooding the market as time goes by, and I find that this is sort of like what I can say is the new in thing now, as I can say in a short term as a trending plants. And however, the plants prices are still dropping. In a way to say, another 3 to 5 months time, I believe the prices might drop, because one time ago I noticed that a varicosum was about 300 plus, and now has dropped to 50 ringgit. So in a way, I find that it is very much affordable. And one of the things that I can say is that since these are available now, as I can see it over here, I believe that is much more freely available to the general public. Next on the trending list are these Monstera species, basically more on the variegated type, if I'm not wrong. Commonly, short form is identified MTC, Monstera Thai constellation. Also a little bit of newer ones of this Monstera elbow, and a little bit of those variegated types that has been constantly been shown here, which I find that many of the vendors are actually bringing for these in the current plant market. Another unicorn plant, I shouldn't say unicorn, however, the factor here when it comes to Monstera adosonii, their variegation can be very sensitive and finicky. And here you can actually notice a lot of it is actually being propagated using a singular node, and that can also be tricky in a sense that the variegation can disappear if they are not stable. So these are the things that buyers must be aware, that the terms and conditions are not very clear, and chances are that if the reversion were to take place, it will be at the buyer's risk. Likewise, when it comes to Philodendron Pink Princess, it also has its contentions and its issues. And the buyers, I would always advise you to do your research on it, especially when it comes to variegation, whether it is original pure variegation or induced by chemicals. There is also another contention that when it comes to labels and names, I am just skeptical about it. There is no such thing as Philodendron giant Bitale. And this is another thing when it comes to this particular type of Philodendron. They do tend to grow big when they are matured plant. So this is one of the things where research is very important, not to get scammed, to identify that actually Bitale and giant Bitale is basically the same plant. And there is something which I'm actually intrigued is that supposedly the crown of this particular philodendron is fully buried under the potting media, which can be very dangerous if a new beginner were unable to understand the concept of plant growth, that if you were to overwater it, the whole thing, especially the stem, which is already buried inside the potting media, can get rotten, and it's too late to save anything, especially when nothing is actually visible. If you can notice here, the labels, the plants prices are actually been reduced. In one of the telltale signs that the buyers are still finding that a pinch here is that these types of philodendron prices can further drop from its market. However, I must say that some types of aroids still hold its market prices. I must say when it comes to Florida ghosts, there is some contention when it comes to its white variegation, that whenever you cut the top cutting, the bottom part seems to lose its variegation. But this particular one has another name called Florida Beauty, which I have not yet come across, and it can also be another factor where a lot of research need to be done when it comes to variegation plants. Here you can notice Monstera albo has come to its place where it very much appears to be more of a matured plant. Very much earlier, these types of plants are actually sold as singular node cuttings, and in most cases these leaves are very much appears to be very juvenile in their form, but here you can notice that they have actually grown to a matured size. Another thing that I have to make mention here is that a new type of moss pole has been appeared, where it's no longer using cocoa peat, but now it's actually using felt, sorry, and it's sort of like a carpet kind of stuff. And I find it's quite stable, and it's been introduced here, maybe for economic reasons and also for practicality, where the root ball seems to able to absorb moisture at the same time deter it from rot. Another variation of EP, Epiphyllum pinnatum, has now come to the market. It's known as marble, and I find that a lot of these types, new variations and colors has been introduced, inclusive also for the Monstera species. Technically speaking, I've never come across yellow star or yellow melrin, and I believe that this is very new in the market and has been showcased here for sale purpose. I have now come to the end of part 1 of this particular video, and I just want to keep it within 30 minutes display or viewing time, simply because the video can be very long, and I'm just closing it with this particular sets of all the aroid plants here, and I will do another part 1 and part 2 and part 3 on this, and hope to see you in that particular sets of video. I will truly appreciate if you can click like, subscribe, and put in your comments on your thoughts on this particular plant fair here, and would like to hear from you soon. Have a nice day. Take care and bye.